So our criteria and our mapping exercise pointed towards a series of lane typologies. We sort of found three main lane typologies with two subcategories: neighborhood lanes, service lanes, and then animated lanes. So the neighborhood lanes primarily service residential properties, and the real difference between the two is in terms of the amount of property for the service and also the block typology that defines them. So closed lanes would have closed block typologies. They may be a little bit more intimate, and they would not feel as inviting to an outsider. Similarly, so with service lanes, we have low and high service lanes, and again, what defines them is the block typology and the number of the amount of service that they do provide. So low service lanes would be closed blocks with not very many buildings serviced by them, and then high service lanes would have open blocks with a large number and probably higher intensity land uses being serviced by them. Animated lanes. So what we found was that many of the lanes in Ward 20 are breaking away from the traditional service use, or being used as just a service lane. And what's happening is that a lot of the lanes are becoming the basis of activity. So in Kensington Market, what you're finding is lanes that are becoming the main access for residential properties. Or in King West Entertainment District, you're finding lanes where the activity is actually spilling out to them in the form of cafes or bars. So to give you an idea of how these lane typologies are distributed throughout the ward, we're finding is in the north, you have a large amount of neighborhood lanes surrounded by service lanes. And as you move further down south through the ward, as land uses intensify, you're finding a lot more service lanes. And especially in areas like Kensington Market and King West, you're starting to find some of these active lanes that are breaking beyond just the service activity. Another thing that we found within Ward 20 is that based upon the lanes, you start to see a division in the neighborhoods, similar to the neighborhood division, but one that is not just based upon land use or the types of residents that are living in the neighborhoods. We found 11 distinct neighborhoods within the ward: Seton Village, the West Annex, the Annex, Harvard Village, the University of Toronto, Kensington Market, Alexandra Park, the Grange, King West, the Entertainment District, and the Harbourfront. For each of these neighborhoods, we developed a detailed map showing all the criteria that we mapped. And based upon this mapping exercise, we developed a series of recommendations for lanes within Ward 20 that Heather is going to talk to you about right now.
Thanks, Adam. So the final step of our project was to provide Councillor Vaughan's office with recommendations to begin a dialogue on the future of Laneways in Ward 20. SBS Planning has researched precedents from other cities to provide the background context and in support of our recommendations. So our first recommendation is to recognize the lanes through official plan specifications, zoning bylaw provisions, and special policy area legislation. Through legislative recognition, the laneways can be named and therefore given a sense of place, as well as a signage system would provide laneway users with a network of lanes to use. Melbourne, Australia is a good example, as they've historically used various city policies regarding laneway transformations to make safe, pedestrian-friendly laneways. The policies call for 24-hour public access, line-of-sight views, and active street frontages. By 1985, 158 out of their 264 lanes have been named and received street signage. Our second recommendation is to explore new service delivery options for the lanes. This recommendation was created because current municipal policy does not permit adequate access for service vehicles due to irregular lane configuration, blockages, and narrow lanes. A need to revisit engineering standards of service delivery is essential to provide adequate garbage pickup, maintenance, emergency access, and clearing snow in the lanes. The City of Vancouver is a good example for this recommendation because earlier this year, laneway housing was approved. In order to accommodate this new use, provisions for public water, storm and sanitary sewer connections have had to be made available at an additional cost to the laneway homes. Laneways must have a sprinkler system, an exterior strobe light, and laneway addresses must be visible by the streets to help emergency vehicles find the homes. Our third recommendation is to foster community stewardship within the lanes through active public involvement. Most lanes are public space, and fall under municipal jurisdiction. However, they are not acknowledged to the same extent as public streets are. Therefore, onus, maintenance, and aesthetic improvements are placed on the residents who live adjacent to the lanes. And there are presently no resources or incentives to promote such activities. A public naming competition would create recognition for the lanes and again a sense of place as well as community ownership. Initiatives to improve upkeep may be fostered through public partnerships where the residents provide the labor and the municipality provides the resources, known as sweat equity. The City of Montreal promotes neighborhood improvements by partnering with a nonprofit group called Eco Quarter to transform their lanes using vegetative additions. Each laneway that was beautified in 2000 had a citizens group in charge of maintaining the lanes, where the City of Montreal provided materials that were necessary to do so. Our fourth and final recommendation is to improve laneway beautification to enhance the existing lanes. Laneways presently contain limited vegetation, poor quality lighting, and have generally paved surfaces. Through the use of permeable ground treatments, appropriate lighting, and landscaping of the lanes, laneways will emerge as a more inviting environment for users in 420. In 2006, Chicago's Department of Transportation began a Green Alley program, which aimed to showcase sustainable design techniques in the laneways. 25 lanes have been constructed to date